She's so formal.
Odette, you want to let me know when the room is full? Hi, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Gina Hill. I am, along with Valerie Bashida, co-president of the PTO Executive Board. Again, thank you for your time and for joining us tonight. I am going to first throw it over to Tamara Shipley, who is the chair of the Principal Advisory Committee, and she has a presentation for us. Tamara?
Yeah, hello everybody. It's great to be with you this evening. So let me just share my screen and make you all bigger on another monitor. One sec. So I wanted to, again, I'm Tamara Shipley. I am the chair of the Principal Advisory Council. And so I was thinking that we'd spend maybe 10 minutes, and I'd like to just sort of tell everybody about the PAC. What is it? And then I want to talk about the CMP, the Comprehensive Master Plan, and then some of the things that are going on with that of late and where we could use some help. I hope to address some of the questions that came in to the session today by just sort of hitting them with the presentation. So, and after I do this too, I'm totally open for any questions that anyone has about this. I think we've allocated maybe 25-30 minutes, even just to sort of CMP and facilities related questions. And then Mark will kind of cover all the other questions in the latter half of the time we have. So very quickly, you can read this page as well. So the Principal Advisory Council, we're basically tasked to bring parents, school employees, students, and community together to create a better understanding and respect the perspectives that we all have. So you can sort of read this here. And in the interest of time, I'm going to do a bit of a speed run through here. I'm going to also tell you that there are 8 elected members of the PAC, plus Principal Joyner. There are 2-year terms, and it's sort of half and half staggered. Currently on the PAC, we've got myself, Terry Crawford, Dagmar Ava, who I saw is on the line here, and Stanley Carter, and Coach Vernica Reeves. We actually have 3 open positions on the PAC right now, unfortunately. So we are seeking additional PAC members. So keep that in mind, everyone. So we need 2 committee leads and specifically a secretary to sort of help us get done some of the things that we would like to do. So we did create a strategic plan, had a session back in December of 2020, where we had 4 specific goals that we wanted to work on to support Principal Joyner in the things that he wants to do for the school, stuff that doesn't naturally fall within sort of the day-to-day operational stuff of the school. So the 4 committees at a very high level, real quick, are foundation. We want to create a foundation for the high school. that Terry Crawford is leading that. We have a facilities committee, Stanley Carter's leading that. And then also a communications and family school partnership committee, which is open, and then another to investigate scheduling and different alternatives to the way that the block scheduling that we have today is done. Also know that there is a PAC for each school in the entire district. There's a very robust set of bylaws about sort of what the PAC should be doing and how we can add members, how we can add committee members, and we adhere by that. We are, again, actively looking for folks to not just join the PAC, but even participate at a committee level so that we can make some progress on the plan. We do.
Tamara,
Yes.
we had a request if you could put it in presentation mode.
Yeah, I can.
Thank
Although
you.
I might jump around to some other things too. Anybody know offhand how I do that?
Upper right slideshow.
Thanks. Awesome. Okay. So we typically meet monthly, second Tuesday at 5:30 via Zoom, if anybody wants to join. And then there's a lot of other things that we do as well. So I and usually Mark participate as well with the broader Druid Hills cluster. So those are all of the schools that feed the high school. And we meet the last Monday of every month, and Ken Schroeder leads that. And usually we also have Marshall Orson on the board, usually attends, so does Deirdre Pierce, and Trenton Arnold, who is our regional superintendent, joins as well. So that's a really good forum to sort of get close to the board and kind of hear what's going on there. So my email's below, jot that down. Would love to hear from you about helping out here. Very quick, you can skim this. These are the 4 committees and the goals of what we'd like to do with these committees. These are really not up and running yet. And you'll know why here in a moment, which has to do with the comprehensive master plan. So last year, when we as a PAC were getting going, was right about the time that the comprehensive master plan sort of took off, and it really did consume a lot of our time. Before I go really deep into that, though, a couple other things that I want to mention that have to do with facilities, which is I want to let folks know that there's a couple ways that we're thinking about what's going on with the school from a facility standpoint. First of all, there are lots of issues that require immediate attention. And one of the, I want to say it was an accomplishment, although it didn't get done yet, which was related to the leak. You can see here, this was last year picture, looks a little different now, but this is the girls' bathroom in the gym lobby. There's been an active leak coming in through the roof, and for many, I don't even know, Mark, it was many years, maybe back and forth. Oh, it's the HVAC unit. No, it's the roof. And it just was involved. And so we as a PAC wrote a few emails, and they did replace the HVAC unit, and now it's time to fix the leak. And so that's something we're actively working on. And then a few other issues of immediate concern related to 2 non-operational elevators and some non-working cameras that are impacting security. And Mark, I'll let you kind of come back and touch on that when we answer more questions there. So I just want everybody to know that that's one of the things that the PAC is doing, is supporting Principal Joyner with the needs there in terms of sort of, I don't know, throwing what weight we have around, I don't know, via just sending some emails once in a while to the right people and trying to say, hey, we really need this done. Longer term issues are around space. We have a real lack of it. We have general safety issues and security issues that we do hope to resolve through the implementation of the recommendation that was made with the comprehensive master plan. I want to show people a couple of pictures. I thought spice up the presentation here. This is a hallway that runs underneath the gym, I think. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but this is just some of the water damage that has happened every time we have a really big rain. It literally will stream down that hallway here in the far right picture. And Mark, you can elaborate if you.
So this this water intrusion is a result of the water not effectively moving away from our building. So we believe that the pipes that are underneath the ground that take the water from the gutters away from the school were terracotta pipes, which were installed, over 90 years ago, and they're very likely collapsed. So our water really oftentimes doesn't have anywhere to go. And this is a result of groundwater running into the exterior wall of the gym, and then coming through that exterior wall into this hallway. The same effect happens in our weight room. This area that we're looking at now is underground. Our weight room is underground, and so the weight room will take on considerable water as well when we have these heavy rains. If we have a kind of a flash flood type rain, it happens, but it typically happens when we have rain for 2 or 3 days. It really starts to seep in.
Yeah. And you can also see, I'm going to kind of flip through these pictures quickly in the interest of time again, but the weight room, also being in the basement, has a super low ceiling where you can't, you have to be strategic about where you go in the weight room and lift your weights up. It's terrible. It is last place for the worst weight room of all the weight rooms in the district. It's like 18 of 18. It's bad. Here's there's, I think, several spots where this is the case, where you've got a lot of just roof leaks coming in, open panels. Here's water damage in one of the rooms here. And now I'm going to show you my favorite picture of one of the classrooms, where there's literally signs up on some poles because of the risk of electric shock. And so this is sort of a classroom that is in the old building, in the old 95-year-old building that we have. And so this is just an example of some of what's going on in our facility that we're hoping to get addressed largely through the CNP project. So I'm going to shift there and tell you a little bit about this. Hopefully some of you have been following this. Somebody want to say something or ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So the comprehensive master plan is a project that was contracted by the district with in 2021 with a company, I think they're just architecture, Perkins and Will. And the project went on all year. It was very robust, but the goal of it was to optimize the usage and the efficiency of all of the facilities. And while doing that, considering sort of changes that needed to happen to special programs, school choice programs, any district-wide changes in attendance areas or feeder patterns. So it was a very robust study. It was a very strategic study. And there were 4 major activities that happened with that you see here in the bullet points here. They did an inventory, an analysis, and assessment of all of the facilities across the district. There was robust stakeholder engagement the process, and that's also where PAC members and Principal Joyner, we went to many different sessions to sort of weigh in and give feedback, and we had the opportunity to review the reports that were created and say, hey, you're wrong, this is not correct. And so there was lots of feedback and activity there. Development of options and recommendations came out of that, and a number of different reports and strategies for implementation. It is a 10-year plan, and it is largely funded with East Blast funds. So the East Blast number 6 passed recently, and so that's what we're sort of moving into. This is what the cover of the report, I was just putting some colors in here to spice it up, but this is a report that if you just went and Googled DeKalb County, school district comprehensive master plan, it would pop right up. And so I recommend that all of you take a quick flip through it. There's a lot of good data and information in there. Very specifically, though, related to our school and to the broader cluster, because this is not just about those of us who have children in the school today. This is about every child that's ever going to go through our high school. So we need to think bigger here, and that's who needs to get involved and should be concerned about the condition of our school. One thing I will note, I don't know how many of you are super familiar, I really wasn't, but we have, is it six sort of regions across the district? I think it's 6, maybe 7. And so we are in Region 2. And Region 2 is the lowest scoring region for what is referred to as facility condition assessment. And we're second lowest for educational suitability. And those are the reports that were used and that we have some scores for that factored into the recommendation that was made relative to our school. And the one thing that's really important to say as well is that there are many schools in the district that are in very, very bad condition. There's just no question about it. It's pretty sad. But our school is in bad condition too. And one of the things that not everybody maybe realizes here is that, you know, we have a 95-year-old building that is a historic building, and there's some real, you know, value in that. We have and Mark, this is where you might chime in. I might be referring to these the wrong way, but there's a new building, like I think where the new media center is, that's beautiful. But on the back side, I think it's referred to as the north building, that is an old elementary school. Like, our kids are going to school in an old elementary school. It's small, it's tight, it's completely inappropriate for, you know, our adult sized kids that we have, right? And then there's the gym and that is just, you know, that's where you'll see a lot of these water issues and damage. It was just poorly constructed. It's got a lot of problems. And, you know, we have a non-regulation size track field. I mean, we just don't have space. We are boxed in by Emory, and there's just no room to grow. And so something has got to happen there. So the recommendation, it was named a priority recommendation out of the report from Perkins and Will, was to build an addition and renovation, I think it was major renovation, at Druid Hills High School. They allocated $52 million to it. And it was scheduled also from a priority standpoint to be started and done in the 2022-2025 timeframe. So when we learned of this recommendation coming forth, we were like, awesome, like this is so needed to finally be strategic about what's needed here. So pretty exciting. However, something happened last week, which is the board got together and they met and voted to remove this recommendation from the list that gets submitted as part of the state facility plan. I might be getting the language wrong there. And 4 board members voted against it, 2 were for it, 1 was absent. This is super troubling. We should all be troubled. We find, you know, we are there. And as such, we have a plan. We're developing a plan. So this is my last page, and then I will hand over to folks. But I am in the process with a few other people, Penn Schroeder, and others, to build a communication strategy and a plan to effectively educate everyone about the facts and the condition of the high school. So part of what that plan will include, again, I say likely include because it's got a little bit of work to go on it. This just happened last week, but I call on this group and others that we may need attendance at board meetings. We might need people to participate and record a snippet for the public comment portion of the next few board meetings. We are going to be inviting all of these board members and some of you to go on a tour of the school and see this firsthand. We'll be creating a video to showcase the condition of the school. Hopefully we can get a picture of that water raging through that hallway. You know, we're going to be creating sort of some different messages that we hope to get out in social media, letters, emails, to show the need for support. And again, this is under the guise of educating people on what's going on here and how long it's been going on. Maybe we do a rally. There's relationship building to be done for sure. And ultimately, we need a lot of people to sort of, you know, engage for these next few months to help. I believe that we need more people familiar with the issues of the facility, to see it firsthand, to read the plan and understand the recommendations relative to some of the recommendations that were made for other schools. And to me, maybe there's some team captains that we get from every feeder school across the cluster. These are just ideas right now. I think there's research to be had There's fact checking to be done. There's analysis of some of the data and the numbers across schools, some writing and some advocating. So in the next 2 to 3 months, this is where we need folks' help. So my information's here, write it down. Just let me know if you have any capacity. Would really appreciate it. Because I think this is a real opportunity for us, a real opportunity. And if we're not on this list, this doesn't come around for another 10 years, right? This is a 10-year plan. And if we're not a part of the 10-year plan, then we're just going to be kind of going through this again. And it won't be us, right? Unless some of you have kindergartners, maybe, I don't know. But, and it's frankly, it needs to be done. So I will stop. So open for questions. And Mark, of course, if you want to add anything to what I said.
Yeah, and please put your questions in the chat, everybody, so we don't have people speaking out. And we do have your questions that you submitted ahead of time, and Mark can get to some of those too. Thanks.
Yeah, so Tamara, great job on that was a great recap of what's going on. Someone asked, any clue what would make the board flip on the plan? And it's I don't know. They specifically cherry picked our project to say we don't want this one to go through, and there were several. There will be a cluster alliance meeting on Monday. That's an open meeting. The number one agenda item will be the comprehensive master plan and how the Druid Hills cluster is going to move forward with trying to get that money and that recommendation back in place. So if you would please plan to attend that meeting on Monday, and then also just pay attention to forthcoming communications from Tamara, from the PAC, from the Druid Hills from the Druid Hills Cluster Alliance on how parents can help to make sure that we're able to get what we definitely deserve.
Mm-hmm. There's a question here of mold issues. I think the answer to that is yes. There's mold. There's mildew. Yeah.
Wherever we have,
Right.
For instance, in the girls' gym lobby restroom, that hole that's in the ceiling will, you'll start to see black mold, collect around that. There are many spaces in our school, in the gym and then in the north building, which are under the ground. So our 400 hall and then the ROTC rooms, which are at the very bottom of our north building, all of those are underground. So there's a significant amount of humidity and moisture in those spaces. And when you have humidity and moisture, what naturally occurs is mold and mildew.
Particularly when HVAC units don't work.
Right. Yep. So there were some specific facility questions, which I want to get to. I'll get to those first. So let me pull those up on. So one of the facilities questions was, when will the construction on the breezeway be finished? Students complain that their entry to the cafeteria and math building has been cut off for too long and causes bottlenecks trying to get to class. That is absolutely true. So that project started in June. It was supposed to be a 6-week project. And here we are at the beginning of March, and it is supposed to be wrapped up in the next couple of days. There were several reasons why that got delayed. Once they started, when they were doing the demolition and they started going down into the ground to the areas where they were going to be putting footings, they realized that there were underground, there were some conduit wiring and things like that. So they then had to redesign the whole thing, and it had to go through through the district to get approved, and then there was another change made because this recommendation for the $52 million came about, and they're like, oh well, they then kind of took some things out of the current project because the current project should be destroyed when the new project takes place. And so they didn't want to put money in that they were then going to, demolish in the next couple of years. So we are really hoping that opens up in the next week or so. So they told me that tomorrow, the last piece is getting the handrails in. So the handrails have been being installed this week. And then the district leadership will need to come in and sign off on that, and then they'll open it back up. But that will help tremendously in our traffic flows. Another facility issue is it seems like the maintenance issues keep reappearing. Same ACs breaking down. Will the county invest in long-term fixes? So the hope is that our long-term fix will be a part of this next East Blast, and that in the tear down and renovation, that HVAC would be a part of that project. So my understanding of the project, if it goes forward, is that the north building, the cafeteria, and the gymnasium would go away, and then new facilities would be built in those areas. There's also the proposal to purchase 2 or 3 residential areas which are adjacent to our property behind the church. In doing so, it would expand our footprint by maybe a couple of acres, and could allow us to actually fit a regulation sized track and field on the back of our property. Currently, our high school is owed a turf field and a rubberized track, which is it's about a $800,000 project, which we're still owed, but we're not installing because we don't have the room to put it in. So part of that the comprehensive master plan would be to get some additional property so that we could actually put those athletic facilities on the back of our property. Where and when will the proposed SPLOST 6 renovation additions to the campus take place, which I think I just hit on? If so, where will they be relocated? So I cannot say, I do not say this definitively because I'm not exactly sure when that takes place, what would happen, but I think that it would be that we would have trailers brought onto the campus. There's not a swing location for our students to go to while the school is being renovated. So the science building and the main building would still be operational. We would have to, have trailers for what is currently housed in the north building. And then once that was completed and they were renovating the main building, the trailers would be used for the classrooms that are in the main building. Will there be transparency on where the funding is going? I believe they've been relatively transparent as far as the dollar amounts that are going to the different projects and what type of things those funds would be paying for. So in a number of projects, specifically in Region 2, they speak of replacing HVACs, replacing roofs, some of those general preventative maintenance type things. And then what are the barriers to the funding being approved or moved forward? And so that's something that Tamara just brought up, the barrier being some of the board members not being in agreement with the recommendation of Will and Perkins. And then what is the status and key milestones of current building construction? So I hit on that. So that should be done any day now. And let's see if I've got other specific.
I think there was the restrooms question.
Yeah. Okay. So right now we only have 3 restrooms that are offline. Now at the beginning of the school year, we had several restrooms closed because of the TikTok challenge to vandalize your bathroom, the bathrooms at school. And we did see that happening at Druid Hills. And so in an effort to protect the bathrooms, we had in each building, there was one set of bathrooms that was open. So in the main building, the main floor, in the science building, the main floor. But the bathrooms have been opened up since then. Now we have 3 that are offline because there are still needed repairs in those bathrooms. Work orders have been placed. Right now, our operations department is moving extremely slow for the district. But in the fall, the board voted to end their contract with the outside vendor who did most of our operations repairs. And so most of those requests and work orders have kind of grinded to a halt or a very, very slow pace because the company that had been doing those things, the district canceled the contract with that. So back to bathrooms, besides the 3 that are offline because of repairs that are needed, all of the bathrooms should be unlocked. If your child goes, and we've told the teachers and we've told the students, if you go to a bathroom and it's unlocked, just tell the teacher will let the front office know and we can get those unlocked. But it was in fact a pretty significant problem at the beginning of the year, but it's not one that we're really dealing with now. If your child goes to the restroom and it's locked, they just need to report to their teachers. Teacher will call the front office and we can get that unlocked.
Hey, Mark,
yeah,
really quickly,
yes.
I know you're saying that there are only 3 offline, but out of how many, just to give us some perspective, like how many bathrooms are at the school?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16.
Okay,
18 total.
thank you.
So we have 2 sets in the gym, 3 sets in the main building, 2 sets in the science building, and 2 sets in the north building. So I'll pause now if anyone has any other facilities specific questions. Okay, so does anyone have any questions for Tamara around the PAC or the CMP?
And I can still just hang on here and answer anything that are relevant in the chat. I know we have a few. Mark, there's a quick question there about how many students we have. Isn't it like 13 something?
Yeah, so we fluctuate between 1320 and 1350. The last I looked, I think we were at 1326. But we'll fluctuate during a school year anywhere between 1320 and 1350. Which is considered that's considered a small to medium sized high school. So I want to take some time now, and I'm going to go away from the questions. I'll come back to the questions. There were some concerns that were shared with me earlier in the school year around some safety issues, and I just wanted to kind of go over with you what some of our practices and protocols are so that you'll be aware of what it is that we do and why we do it. You'll remember just before break, we had 2 threats to the school. And then in that same week, on the Friday, there was the national TikTok threat. And so when that happens, you'll get a form letter from me that we've been alerted that there was a threat to the school. When a threat comes and we're made aware of a threat, we immediately start our threat assessment. Okay. And what that is when I'm made aware of a threat, I immediately notify our SRO. The SRO is a student resource officer there, and that is a trained law enforcement officer, a police officer. And we currently have a full-time SRO. At the beginning of the year, we had part-time, but now we have a full-time SRO back in place. The SRO then makes a determination whether or not they need to engage and involve additional law enforcement. And then it's kind of a 2-pronged approach to this assessment, where the school is working on one side, working within the within the boundaries of the code of conduct and within the boundaries of the investigation that we can do. And then law enforcement is working on, they're working on their side, and they're looking they're looking through the lens of law enforcement. And so there's a kind of a distinct line between the actions that we take as school administrators using the code of conduct, which is guided by the district, and the actions that law enforcement could take, which is their actions are guided by state and federal laws. So once we're made aware of a threat, we immediately begin an investigation. And the first thing we want to do is try to identify who this threat has come from. Sometimes that's immediately known. Sometimes it's on a student's Instagram, or in the past, like on a Facebook page. So it's sometimes it's very easy for us to immediately determine who the threat is coming from. But our first steps are to try and figure out who made the threat. And we do that by questioning students. We do that by looking through social media ourselves. And usually it's through talking to students that we're able to find out who the threat has come from. We then locate that student, and then a process with the law enforcement takes place. Okay, and part of their threat assessment is to conduct an interview with the student and the family of the student and ask very specific questions around how the threat was made, if the threat was to shoot up the school, specific questions like are there firearms in your home? Are those firearms secured? If it's I'm going to bomb school, do you have bomb making materials in your home? And beyond that, SROs do home checks. They will go to the residences of the student who has made this threat, and they will go into those homes, and they will see, are there weapons here? Are there bomb making materials? And those visits can happen during the day. They can happen after hours. There have been times when the threat comes to me at 7:30 p.m. And so we have SROs and detectives going into families' homes as late as 11:30 at night or midnight to ask these questions and find out, is this a true threat, or is this a student who is, the students always say, I was joking, I didn't really mean it. But anytime that happens, I notify y'all so that you know that it has happened. And then kind of the last piece to that threat assessment is that the district will push in additional security into the school and secure specifically SRO security. So law enforcement security. They'll increase the number of SROs who are in the school. You will have noticed when we're in those situations that in the morning, maybe if you bring your student to school, that you'll see more police vehicles around the school. So that's kind of the last piece, is that they will increase the presence of law enforcement. To this point, in my tenure as principal, we've had several threats. It is not unusual for me to send that letter home 2 to 3 times a year. Now, because we've not been in school prior to this school year, we have been out for an extended amount of time. I have, 2 classes or two classes of families that they've never received that letter because they've really not been in school. And so it's a notification to let you know that this did in fact happen, and that we have put all, we've started our process and protocol to determine if the threat is a legitimate threat. So I'm going to pause now for any questions around that threat assessment process. Okay, and the next thing I want to go over is the lockdown procedure. Okay, so there are We will have lockdown drills throughout the year. And then there are times throughout the year that we will lock down the school for whatever reason that could be happening that we need to lock down the school. And there are three levels of lockdown, and they are numbered level 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the least restrictive lockdown, and level 3 being the most restrictive lockdown. And typically when we go into a lockdown at Druid Hills High School, it is a level 2 lockdown. We've never gone into a level 3 for real lockdown, but typically it's a level 2 lockdown. But let me start with level 1. So level 1, an example of why we would go into level 1 is there's a possible threat somewhere outside of the school or possibly in the community. This happened several years ago. We went into a level 1 lockdown. There had been an armed robbery in the city of Decatur, and the law enforcement were kind of actively trying to find the perpetrators of this crime. And so many of the schools in the vicinity went into a level 1 lockdown. Now, level 1 lockdown is called an exterior lockdown, and it's the reason we don't usually go into a level 1 is because we have so many buildings. So in a level 1 lockdown, all of the exterior doors are locked. And we then monitor the movement of the students inside the building. So the students can move inside of the buildings. And we've been in a level 1 lockdown and actually done a transition where students are moving outside of the building. But in a level 1 lockdown, we are really supervising any movement. And during that, one of the expectations is that the classroom shutters or windows to the exterior, that those are closed, because if the threat is outside, then the threat cannot see into the building. A level 2 lockdown, and this is when there's a known threat either nearby in the close vicinity of the school, or the threat could be inside of the school. And that could be an angry parent or a student that is extremely upset and agitated. It could be a medical emergency. It also could be that we have a lost student. So we have a population of students at Druid Hills High School with exceptional needs, and students who are non-communicative with special needs or exceptional needs. And depending on the student's ability, they may be involved in some inclusive classrooms. They may have some independent activities that they do without supervision, we have a report that a student has broken a rule. We're trying to locate a student who's done something wrong, and that student is in their classroom. So we would go to a level 2 lockdown, and that's an interior lockdown. So when we go to level 2 lockdown, the first thing the teachers do is they will go to their doors, and anyone that is in the hallway, they will pull those children into their classrooms, even if they're not their students. All exterior doors are locked. All interior doors are locked. The exterior window blinds, in this point in time, they are open so that there can be visibility into the classrooms from the outside of the school. Depending on the reason for the lockdown, we may conduct accountability procedures. And during a level 2 lockdown, staff and students are not to leave the classroom. Teachers continue teaching, but no one is to be moving in the school building. When we go into level 2 lockdown, any visitors or vendors, those visitors or vendors are, if they're near the front office, they're pulled into the front office, or if they're near a classroom, they're pulled into a classroom. The front office is also secured at that point in time. Level 3 lockdown is the most severe, and when we do our practice drills those are almost always going to be in that level 3, which what we call a full lockdown. Okay, and a reason for a full lockdown would be that there is a major threat inside the school building, a threatening person that could possibly have a weapon, an active shooter type situation. And when we go into the level 3 lockdown, if it is safe to do so, the teachers they open the door and pull any students into the classroom. And all exterior doors are locked, all interior doors are locked. During a level 3 full lockdown, the goal is for the building to seem as if there's no one in the building. So during a level 3 lockdown, students move to a space in whichever room they're in, so that anyone in the like if there is a window on a classroom door, but if anyone comes to that window and they look in, they're not able to see any students in there. So students are hiding, and they are to be silent during this. The exterior blinds are open so that people can see in. During a full lockdown, administration is also locked down. The only movement that would be happening during a full lockdown would be the SRO and other law enforcement people. We've never had in my 8 year, well, actually in my 24 years in DeKalb County, I've never gone into a level 3 full lockdown that was not in a drill type scenario. That's not to say it won't happen, but I've not experienced it. And that's the most serious one. That is the one that we do practice, usually 2 times a year. And the same reason that we practice our fire drills and our tornado drills, so that in the occurrence that it actually happened, the students would be able to react, and the teachers would be able to react in a quick manner, and they would know exactly what they're expected to do. Any questions around the lockdown procedures?
We have one asking about that the last one said it was a drill, but it wasn't, so it was confusing. And is that a communication error? You can see it in the chat.
So it was a drill because there was no threat. And so in that drill, the purpose was to stop all movement in the school. In the most recent one, the public safety K9 and weapons dogs, they randomly come to our school, typically twice a year. This year, they've only come once. And when they come in, we go into a level 2 drill so that there's no movement of students and everyone is in place. And so the verbiage that is provided is the verbiage drill, because there's not an actual threat. Other questions around lockdowns? Okay, I'm going to move back to the list of questions. School events. When and where will the prom be held? The prom is going to be May 7th at 7 p.m. at the Emory Conference Center. That information was announced this week. And as many of you are aware, there was some unfortunate wording in the communications that went out around the dress code. And I will apologize for that. That I just sent that out without previewing what it said. And once it came back to me, and I was kind of shocked at the tone deafness of that. And we did make corrections to that. And again, I apologize that went out. I don't I don't know when those were created, but when I looked at the language of it, it seemed like that must have been written some time ago because of the tone deafness of it. So that has been corrected and will be moving forward. When will the yearbooks be in? Yearbooks will be in April. Mid to late April is when they come in. And then April 29th is the date that is set for distribution. Typically, there's kind of a yearbook ceremony that happens in Uri Theater that the seniors attend. And so the seniors receive their yearbooks first. And then that afternoon and then the days following, other students will receive their yearbooks. But the official distribution date will be April 29th. Next question is, what is the seniors' last day of school? That is still to be determined. I'm waiting on guidance from the district on that. It will likely be sometime during the week of May 9th, but I cannot say definitively what that day will be, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be the week of the 9th that they will likely have their final exams mid to late week of that week. We got a question from the neighborhood, and unfortunately, I don't really have a great answer for this, but the question is from the neighborhoods. We lobbied to reduce school speed limits from 35 to 25 on North Decatur. What can we do to get the state-sponsored video speed camera installed? I know that North Decatur is a state road, so that is under the governance of the Georgia DOT. So my suggestion to that neighborhood group is they need to reach out to the Georgia DOT to see if they can get, I'm assuming they want one of the signs that kind of has the speed limit above it, and then it flashes what your speed is to make people aware that they're going above the speed limit. We had several COVID related questions. One of them we've kind of already answered. It was, do you anticipate kids will be wearing masks next school year? And that would, I have no idea. I think if things continue trending the way that they are, hopefully it would be an option for students to wear next year. And of course, if we see the disease take a turn and numbers going back up, it could be that there is a mask requirement really at any point in time moving forward. But as we're all aware, the mandate has been lifted. The district is strongly encouraging faculty, staff, and students to wear masks. We have a large percentage of our students are still wearing masks. I would say over 50%. I think that my own prediction is I think that more students will start to unmask as we get closer to the end of the school year. I think I'm curious to see when students come back from spring break, how many will continue to wear masks or how many will take their masks off. But right now, there's no longer a mandate. What are the social mental health needs of teachers and students from COVID-19, and what can we as parents do to support? So what I've seen in our students and in our adults is increased levels of anxiety, increased levels of fear, depression. Those are starting to diminish, but many of them are still prevalent. And I think that many people have repressed these negative emotions, and so they're still there. I think some people are very intentionally trying to address some of the negative experiences they went through. And what we've seen as a result of that is that students and teachers are more sensitive to issues. They get upset or frustrated or angry much easier. Things that would appear to be small problems become much larger problems because an individual has a higher level of anxiety within them. And so what in a non-COVID time may be a very simple problem to solve because of the experiences an individual has gone through and the way that they are currently in their social emotional well-being, that same instance can be magnified and seem considerably worse than it would in a non-COVID time. We've seen a stunt in student emotional and maturity growth. It's very clear to us, and it is not just at Druid Hills High School. It is across the board. I was recently speaking to a teacher at Renfro Middle School. He teaches 7th grade, and we were talking about this stunt in maturity, and he said that his 7th graders act like 5th graders, and many of our 9th graders act like 7th graders. Mr. Ingram and I, we were mediating some female students. They were juniors recently, and when we finished the mediation, I looked at him and I said, that was a 9th grade mediation we just had. Like the advice we were giving, the topics and situations that we were giving as examples, working these students through this situation, was a dialogue that we would typically have with 9th graders. And so that we've seen an increase in negative student behavior. We've seen an increase in the number of referrals. We've seen an increase in students missing school. And again, that is not specific to Druid Hills High School. Those are numbers and data that we are seeing across the district. What can parents do to support? Well, we have our Druid Hills auction, Paint the Town Red, which is coming up in March. And our Fund the Need is, Odette, am I giving away something here? Do I need to hold on to this information, or can
You
I
are
move
not.
forward?
You are not.
Okay.
I put it in the chat also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Please explain a little bit. This is a preview for everyone.
Yeah. So we need professional help in our school for our students and our faculty and staff. We have 4 trained counselors, but they don't have the bandwidth to deal with some of these emotional, social emotional problems that our students are going through. Their day is filled with scheduling, talking, checking schedules to make sure students are on track to graduate, having senior conferences, writing letters of recommendation. Now, of course, we handle all emergency situations, but above and beyond kind of triaging emergency situations and providing outside resources that parents could use, there's not the bandwidth there to serve our students as well as I would like to, particularly now after having gone through this pandemic and seeing the increase in the need. There is a company named Chris 180, which used to be called Chris Kids. It's a 40-year-old nonprofit. And they have a huge umbrella of services which they offer. And one of their services is counseling and therapy services to educational institutions. And we have talked with them, and the Fund the Need at the upcoming auction is going to be specifically to raise funds to get trained therapists inside of our school. Now, the way that Chris 180 works is I may be wrong with some of these numbers, so don't hold me to these numbers, but I think it's $16,000. For $16,000, you can have a therapist in your school for 1 full day a week for the entire year.
12, Mark.
12,000.
Yes.
Yeah. And then for $50,000, you can have a therapist in your school 5 days a week, all day long. Go ahead.
Sorry, 66.
66. Okay. So depending on how much money is raised around this Fund the Need, we will then engage Chris 180 and have them come assign a therapist to our school, which will be at our school for 1 full day or 2 full days or 3 full days, 4 or 5, depending on the funds that are raised. And something that really was kind of the icing on the cake for me is that Chris 180 will work with students and families to determine if there is insurance that will help, if a family doesn't have insurance, Chris 180 will work with the family to get Medicaid, and to help find money for these services. And in situations where student or families are unable to be insured. So if we have an immigrant family, and who are unable to get any insurance, Chris 180 will offer the services for free. So no student would be denied services because of a financial reason. Now, of course, there has to be parent approval before a student can talk with one of these therapists. Our counseling center would still be doing the triage. So in an emergency situation, our counselors and a district social worker would immediately work with the student and family, but then that student and family could be passed off to Chris 180 so that the student and or family is then getting consistent and continual service as a preventative or as a maintenance of social emotional well-being. They will offer one-on-one sessions. They will offer small group sessions. They will offer trainings for teachers. And so this is something that as a principal, I'm extremely excited about. Prior to COVID, we were seeing a steady increase in our 504s. 504 is a plan that a student would have based on a medical diagnosis. And we've seen a steady increase specifically around anxiety and depression. And I think part of it is just the sign of the times, but then you layer a pandemic on top of that, and those numbers start to increase quite quickly. And so the need is definite. And I'm very, very excited to get a therapist into our school to start offering that additional and kind of long, maybe not long term, but professional support that a kid can get during the day, and that is going to be covered financially through insurance, through Medicaid, or through Chris 180. So that to me is something that I'm very excited about. And so if you plan to attend the auction, please save some money for that fund the need. And if you're not planning to attend, please make a donation. That there will be availability online to donate money to our fund the need. The next question
Mark.
is, yeah, go ahead.
Since I checked last evening, another question came in that's COVID related.
Uh-huh.
So I just thought maybe since we're doing that, it was, would the county consider providing a hybrid classroom for those people uncomfortable with taking off their masks?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Explain, actually, I might not understand what you mean by hybrid. If that person could explain what they mean by a hybrid classroom.
Yeah, well, and that was my question.
Yeah.
I meant a situation where the students had the option either of going in person or doing virtual learning from the high school, from Druid Hills classroom.
Okay, so the virtual option right now is called Flex Academy. And you may have seen in the news that DeKalb County and Flex Academy did not perform very well last semester. Our students at Druid Hills, they did much better than the district in general, but we still had several students that struggled. Unfortunately, the virtual option right now is Flex, and Flex is unlike the virtual classes that our students attended last year, where they had live teachers in front of them. Flex Academy is it's an independent study classroom. So the student is given a list of tasks and resources to complete. There is a teacher for each course, and the teacher has office hours similar to what you would see in a college or university. During the week, there is last semester it was 2 hours a week of office hours. They may have increased that this semester based on some of the results from last semester. But a student can then engage virtually through a Zoom or Teams meeting with the Flex teacher to get additional assistance. So the virtual option is Flex Academy. And, you know, again, there was some success with it, but unfortunately it didn't roll out as well as I think everyone would have hoped it would have. So at this point in time, I think that the registration for Flex has closed, but they may have some leniency at this point in time because of the lifting the mask mandate for families that would choose to now switch to that full virtual option. That may be some information that's coming to us soon. I haven't heard anything specific to Flex, but it would seem reasonable to me that there would be some flexibility because there has been this change in our policy.
Thank you.
Yep. Another COVID question was, how has attendance at school specifically related to COVID? So several days after our return from winter break, we dipped below 90% attendance. Anytime that we have a day that's below 90%, that's reported to me, and then I report it up to the district. The Department of Public Health always wants to know when we're lower than 90% during COVID and pre-COVID. It's a way for the Department of Health to kind of keep an eye on any type of virus that could be spreading through a community. So in those first 2 weeks after winter break, we had several days that we dipped below 90, but not far below 90, like 90, 97, 98, 99. Our typical attendance rate and what we're running at right now is around 97% attendance. The students, you know, most of you have probably received some sort of communication about your student being a close contact. We don't have hard data on the number of students who are vaccinated, but we do have some soft data. There is a national data bank of who is vaccinated, but because of our rights, you can't just go in and check that database. We are able to check when a student has been determined to be a close contact. So student A has been determined to be a close contact. We can go into that database and see if student A is vaccinated. That way we know what directive to give the parent. If the student is vaccinated, he or she may continue to come to school as long as they aren't, you know, showing any symptoms. If they're unvaccinated, they then have to quarantine based on whatever the current quarantining guidelines are. So we have some soft data. And so using that soft data, when we look at all the close contacts we've had first semester and second semester, and there's thousands of them, we have over an 80% rate of vaccination in our student body. So I'm really impressed with that. And it makes me, one, it makes me feel good that we have students and families that are conscientious and want to take care of themselves and their community. And also it gives me kind of an added level of comfort knowing that many of our students are in fact vaccinated. Any other questions around COVID before I move on?
There's one that's semi kind of related
Okay.
about additional outdoor seating being installed.
There's been some talk around that. That was a topic that had come up as a fund the need, but we've chosen to go with the Chris 180 instead. It is something that could possibly come up again as something that can be purchased with either school funds or possibly funds that are raised within the auction that aren't specific for the fund and need. So there is a chance that we could add additional outdoor seating. Another one of the questions was, is there any way that students could have access to lockers? I've heard that there are not enough for everyone, but is there a way that what is available could be used? For example, a student on the baseball team could keep gear in a locker since he has to travel to DMS every day during the season for practice. So when we opened the school year, one of the COVID mitigations was no lockers, but we're kind of beyond that at this point in time. We are, as an administration, we no longer make a practice of assigning a locker to every student, but we have lockers available for students that want one. And now that we're moving out of these COVID restrictions, If your student wants or needs a locker, they can go to the discipline office and that can be assigned to them. The reason that we're not assigning them out to everyone is when we do that, every summer we have to pay a company to come in and change all those combinations. And that's a $2,000 bill. And what we have found in recent years is that students aren't using their lockers anymore. They carry their stuff throughout the day in a backpack. And what we're seeing even more is that there are fewer and fewer textbooks being used, and that the Chromebooks and computers have really become one of their main resources. So when we were issuing out 100% of the lockers, we were finding that there was a very small percentage of students using them. So now we've moved to a assign as needed or as wanted type process. And then, let me see. I'm looking through these questions. Valerie, do you see any? Oh, budget. What are your top funding priorities for the school? Where are your budget gaps? So we, we're provided an operating budget, and that is split up into, what I can spend on supplies and what I can spend on like equipment, what I can spend on, various things. And for the most part, we are able to meet, we're able to meet all of our needs as far as supplies and things of that nature. The PTO plays a pretty big part in filling in the gap. The PTO offers teacher grants to our teachers. It used to be a biannual thing, but now it's opened up. It's pretty much year round. And so when a teacher has a need for some sort of supply or resource, they submit a grant to the PTO. And then the PTO looks over these grants and determines whether or not this is something that they want to fund. And I would say that probably close to 95% of those grants are funded by the PTO. Now, the PTO gets that money from the auction. Okay, so here again, to support not only social emotional well-being, but other areas of the school, monies come to our teachers through the PTO. Monies also come to our athletic program through the DHHS. So the DHHS also does fundraising, but they are also 50%, they get 50% of the auction as well. So our parents and our community do a tremendous job of supplementing what the district provides for us. And so, when I think about the needs, our true needs are in facility. I mean, if you ask our teachers what they need, they would say they want air conditioning and they want heat consistently. And those are these larger district issues. And the PAC, thank you, Tamara, and the PAC members, they were successful in getting a new HVAC system installed over the gym. And hopefully we're moving forward with getting that roof leak fixed over there. But really our greatest needs are in the area of facilities. Valerie, do you see, have I missed any?
Yeah, there were the teaching educational issues. There was one about how much time do teachers have to post grades?
Okay, I see it. How much
Yeah.
time do teachers have to post grades? So we ask teachers to post grades weekly, but the expectation is that within each grading period that all work is graded. If you have a concern about with a particular teacher or with a particular assignment, I would suggest email the teacher directly. Say, hey, I'm curious to know how my child performed on assignment XYZ. If you're not getting a response, or if you're seeing a particular teacher that is being particularly slow in getting grades in, shoot an email to Mr. Ingram, who is our assistant principal over instruction, and he can have a discussion. He can check that grade book to see, are there an appropriate number of grades in? Do they seem to be coming in on time? And then the next one there is, what is the school's or teacher and staff's greatest needs? And I think I just hit on that.
Yeah, and there's one other one that I see that came in. I'm hoping I caught everybody's. Are there improvements to the Wi-Fi being made to extend access for kids without iPhones? I guess the Wi-Fi setup excludes Android phones from accessing the school's Wi-Fi, is what the person is asking about.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'll have to look into that. I don't see an expansion. I don't see an expansion of the Wi-Fi service in the near future. The fact that the student is, because there is a guest Wi-Fi that anyone should be able to access, whether it's a school device, Chromebook, or any type of smart device. Students should be able to get in as a guest, but I can look into that around that Android specific question. I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
So I think that's all I saw. If anyone, if I missed anything, or if anyone has another question, you can put it in the chat. Okay, not seeing anything else. So I think we're good. Thank you everyone for coming and, you know, participating in this. I know there's a lot, I know there's been a lot of talk about the construction plan. So I hope some of you can help out with that and help us get our school the money it deserves. And thank you, Mr. Joyner, for all the updates on the other important issues as well. It's really good to hear from you, and I know everyone really appreciates it.
Yeah,
So-
well, I appreciate having the forum, and thanks so much to y'all who tuned in. If at any
Yes.
point in time you have a question, send an email to the school, call the front office, call Miss Moore. If you need to find out information, or if you hear something, you're like, is that right? Call the front office. Miss Moore will get you to the person you need to talk to, and we can get your answer immediately, or we can get your answer very soon. We're here to help you, and we're here to get you the correct information.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. We're glad you could join us.
For sure. Thanks, y'all. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.